The NFL season has come to an end. The Seattle Seahawks are the Super Bowl champions, a 29-13 win over the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 60 in Santa Clara. Welcome back, everybody, to Chase's Sports News. I am Chase Coburn here today. We're going to break down the ins and outs from that matchup between Seattle and New England, why the Seahawks were able to pull through, and maybe some of the greater implications and kind of the greater meaning from that game and what we're learning across the NFL from that game. But of course, just breaking down what exactly I noticed from watching 4 quarters of what was pretty much a Seattle Seahawks beat down over the New England Patriots. We're going to break that all down here today. Please be sure to subscribe, follow, like, view, however you guys want to support the channel. We would greatly appreciate it. And we are close to really kind of going blast off here on the YouTube. We've done that on the Instagram and some other platforms, but we're really looking forward to continuing to grow our content in the NFL all season with the NBA season coming up. So you're not going to want to miss that. Please be sure to subscribe. In terms of what I noticed from this game, I feel the exact same way I thought about the Philadelphia Eagles last year. I feel like we all overthought this. Like last year, Philadelphia was clearly the better team than Kansas City, but we were like, well, the Chiefs are here, or maybe the Eagles aren't good, and maybe Jalen Hurts can turn the football over. Right? We were saying these same conversations. We were having these same conversations regarding Sam Darnold at the quarterback position for the Seattle Seahawks. I thought Darnold played a really good game and a clean game, which was most important. But Seattle was the far better team all year. I think we should have noticed it. And look, I did pick the Seahawks to win, but I acknowledge it. I thought the Pats had a chance, and they certainly did have a chance. But look, the Seahawks, they came to play. Third best Super Bowl championship in the history of the NFL, according to DVOA. They won 9 straight games going into this matchup. They had the best point differential in the NFL. They've been the best team all season long. The last time they lost was on November 16th to the team that probably was the second best team in the NFL all season long, and the Los Angeles Rams did that on the road, and Darnold had 4 picks. So this was really a team that I think if they played a clean football game, and I said this on News Nation on Friday morning, if the Seahawks didn't turn the football over, they were going to win the game. And well, they did not turn the football over. They forced 3 on Drake May, and they won the football game. It was pretty much self-explanatory in that regard. I want to give huge credit to Mike McDonald for the job that he has done here with the Seattle Seahawks. You see teams like the Miami Dolphins bringing in Jeff Hafley and the Baltimore Ravens bringing in Jesse Minter. They're trying to find the next Mike McDonald, and, kudos to those franchises for doing it. Baltimore knew what it was like. They let him out of their building. And I think a lot of fans knew right away that Mike McDonald was going to be able to make an impact. And it was clear right away that he was going to be a star. He's done that here. I think he just brings so much to the table as a head coach. I think he's a strong leader. I think he's a good culture builder. But I think most importantly for the X's and O's, I think he's the smartest and the most sophisticated defensive mind in the National Football League. I just look at this matchup in particular, and that excludes the other 36 matchups he has coached here with the Seattle Seahawks in his tenure thus far in 2 seasons. If you just look at the Super Bowl matchup, he ran circles on Josh McDaniels, the assistant coach of the year, one of the greatest offensive coordinators in the history of the sport. He ran circles on him. That offense had no answer whatsoever for Seattle's dominant defensive unit. And he also ran circles on the coach of the year and Mike Vrabel, who I did not think Vrabel should have won coach of the year. I was for Liam Cohen or a Ben Johnson for that award. I actually had Vrabel 4th behind McDonald as well. But McDonald may have shown, I think we found out really who the coach of the year was in this matchup, because Mike Mack just put together a fantastic game. And look, he should have won coach of the year. This season, he was the best coach in the sport, and when you include the postseason, and it wasn't even close. And I think the Seahawks should feel really excited. John Schneider is one of the best general managers in the NFL. The job that he orchestrated, turning around this team, he took risks. He got rid of top receivers. He got rid of his consistent quarterback, but he went all in on a swing, and he hit a home run. And I would expect him to do the same here. He's won a Super Bowl with 2 different quarterbacks and 2 different head coaches, the 3rd general manager in history who could say the same. Howie Roseman and Ozzie Newsome, the other 2. So I look at Mike McDonald, and I say that I've got a stable organization, a fan base that loves me, a general manager that's going to support me and put me in the best position. I'm 38 years old. I'm 27-10 in 2 seasons with my team with 2 different quarterbacks. You got to feel really excited about the future if you're Mike McDonald, and if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan. Jeremy Fowler, who we have had on the show, huge shout out to Jeremy. He wrote an article and a publication today on ESPN about how the New England Patriots could be building a dynasty going forward, which I disagree with that, and that's a different conversation for a different day. But why aren't the Seahawks that dynasty? They have a stable organization. They have possibly the best general manager in the NFL. They have a quarterback on a bargain of a contract who they know they can win with. They have a wide receiver in Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's the offensive player of the year. And again, they have a head coach who is really, really, really damn good. And so a huge shout out to the Seattle Seahawks for getting this win. But you also got to give shout out to Sam Darnold. I thought that. Look, I kind of called it before the game. My biggest fear over this 2-week process, as I was really trying to just wrap my mind around this matchup, my main the thing that was always in the back of my mind was Sam Darnold could turn the football over. Sam Darnold could turn the football over. And that was valid because he led the NFL in turnovers during the regular season. We had seen it in the playoffs. And even though he had been playing well, it's still this reputation of it's Sam Darnold. It's this guy who less than 2 years ago was being considered one of the biggest busts in the NFL. The guy was seeing ghosts. And as I said, I thought he was going to see gold. And he did see gold yesterday. I think that the interesting thing about Darnold is the Seahawks have very rarely needed him to be elite. We're going to talk about, exactly what NFL teams need from a quarterback now in the modern day of the NFL. But when Darnold has needed to step up, when they have needed him to be elite, he has been. And in a game like this, it was really, it was all on ball security. The job was just to not lose the game. And Sam Darnold did that. I'm not going to act like Darnold played a perfect football game by any stretch. I thought he missed Jackson Smith and Jigba on multiple throws that could have been touchdowns, overthrew Rashid Shaheed a pair of times. I thought he was a little bit inaccurate. That one out route to Cooper Kupp in the second half. The Seahawks had many chances. It was like 200 yards to 50, and they were only up by, I think, 9 or 12 points. They had many opportunities to put the game away. I think Darnold missed some of those opportunities. So he was certainly flawed, and he had a far from perfect football game. But again, that was not the job for him. The job was let Kenneth Walker run the football really well, get Cooper Kupp involved. JSN was out for most of the game, and try to get him involved when you can. I thought they did that at a solid, solid rate. AJ Barner, they got involved as well. Darnold came up with the touchdown when needed, and again, most importantly, he took care of the football. The Seattle team had 0 turnovers in 3 postseason games, and there is a reason why that is a winning strategy and a winning formula come postseason time. It's a similar formula that Philadelphia followed in the postseason last year. I think they had a turnover or 2, but it was a pretty clean postseason for the most part for the teams that ended up making it to the Final Four last year, if I recall correctly. Seattle followed the same philosophy, and it worked really well. And, the journey for Sam Darnold's been a rough one, but I got to feel so happy for Sam Darnold. And it just really shows you that you can't ever really give up on a quarterback. I thought Darnold was awesome. It was awesome to watch yesterday. And I also thought the Darnold extended plays when needed. I thought he was very mobile and very agile. A lot of people going into this game thought Drake May was going to be the one to do a lot with his legs. I thought Sam Darnold was really productive with his legs. If you look at the rushing, it was only 2 carries for 5 yards, but one of them was a big gain, and I thought he was evading defenders all day. I thought Milton Williams got in the backfield, and I thought New England did a decent job of creating pressure. I think he was pressured at an above 50% rate, blitzed at 57% rate, but Sam Darnold was still able to make plays. So huge shout out to Sammy D. But, he was able to take care of the football. That was the key thing. And Drake May was not able to do that. And I mentioned on a friend's podcast yesterday that I thought I would rather have Matthew Stafford than Drake May as a quarterback in the National Football League. And I, of course, stand by that after the Super Bowl. I mean, Seattle dominated this matchup. Just looking defensively, they controlled 33 minutes of clock, so already that's going to help your defense. But they attacked Drake May, and it paid off. I mean, May was pressured on more than 52% of his dropbacks. That's the most in Super Bowl history, according to Next Gen Stats. He also had a negative 0.44 EPA per dropback. That was the lowest of any quarterback since 2016. He was sacked 6 times in the process. I thought Byron Murphy was awesome. I thought Derek Hall was awesome. I thought Devin Witherspoon was awesome. I thought Leonard Williams made some plays against the run. I thought this team did a really solid job. And obviously, it can't all be on Drake May. That Patriots offensive line needs to bulk up. I thought the play calling was questionable, and I do think they need to get him an outside receiver. But Drake May was really, really bad. And a lot of people, after he finished second in MVP voting and after he led the NFL in completion percentage and passer rating and QBR and all of these other metrics, fans are ready to throw him into that elite echelon of QBs. Even before the Super Bowl, I'm not ready to throw him into that echelon. Could this second-year surge be like Pat Mahomes or Lamar Jackson's or Joe Burrow's, where that second-year surge ended up leading to consistent success over the span of a 5-8-year career, at least of what we've seen so far, and that is and counting? Possibly, right. That it could lead to that, but he's looked really awful against elite defenses this year. That's not just a narrative, right? I mean, I put down the fact that the Patriots couldn't be good teams because we've seen that they played 3 really good teams in the playoffs and they were able to win. It was ugly. The offense didn't play well, but there are 2 sides to the ball, and the defense was really superb when they needed to be. But you look at this playoff run, the offense was terrible. I mean, they had less points per drive than the 0-16 Cleveland Browns during this postseason run. Drake May had the worst EPA during a postseason run, expected points added, in the history of the National Football League since the stat was being tracked, I think around the century mark. So for the past 25, 26 postseasons, Drake May had one of the worst postseasons from a quarterback. And that was because he finally had to face great defenses. And so including the postseason, he played 21 games this year. In 9 games, he played against top 15 defenses in yardage allowed per game. That's almost half the league, but top 15, we'll say. Drake May's completion rate was 64.3%, 233.5 yards per game, 16 total touchdowns, 13 total turnovers, and a 90.3 passer rating. Above average, right? Not terrible, but just above average as a quarterback, not the elite player we believe that he is. I say we as NFL fans and analysts that we believe that he is. But if you look at the other 12 games he played this season, which were against bottom 17 defenses in yardage allowed per game, he had a 73% completion rate, almost 10% higher, averaged 260 passing yards per game, had 26 total touchdowns, only had about 6 turnovers total. So that is a much greater resume, plus a 120 passer rating, nearly 121 passer rating, which is, again, 30 points higher than it was when he had to play top elite defenses. So that schedule thing that the Patriots had one of the easiest schedules in modern NFL history, that wasn't a narrative. That was truly a determining factor. And I think that was kind of exposed with Drake May in this postseason, particularly in that Super Bowl, where there was the whole argument between Drake May and Matthew Stafford for the league MVP award. And Stafford went for 370 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Seahawks defense on the road. Drake May had a lackluster performance with 3 turnovers, and he was terrible throughout the game. Made terrible decisions, read the pocket awfully. I mean, he was terrible in the pocket all season long. That was even worse today, or yesterday, I should say, for the Super Bowl. But I mean, Stafford had a great performance, and Drake May was really lackluster in this matchup. And I know the MVP is only a regular season award, but maybe just kind of the icing on the cake for the Matthew Stafford advocates. With that resume where he has looked absolutely pitiful against elite defenses in the NFL, I'm not ready to say that Drake May is the NFL's next great player. I think in hindsight, he was probably overrated because of a skewed record due to one of the easiest schedules in modern NFL history and the fact that he was a New England Patriot. And I will say this too. We as analysts and as fans, we get this wrong all the time, right? 2 years ago, CJ Stroud had that breakout rookie season. Fans were told that he was going to be the next breakout franchise star face of the NFL in the National Football League. Last year, Jaden Daniels had his amazing rookie season. He went to the NFC Championship game. We were told he was going to be the next big thing in the NFL. Ian Eagle went on my podcast right before the season, and he's like, yeah, Jaden Daniels is going to be the next big thing. So it's been a year or two since those guys had their breakout campaigns. And I don't even think anybody considers them to be top 10 quarterbacks in the National Football League. And those were guys who were being considered to be the best in the league, the face of the franchise, the face of the NFL. So I believe that this could have been a one-trick pony season from Drake May. I assume that he is going to get better. I assume that he will learn from this. I think he is a good quarterback. I am not ready to say that he is an elite and a great quarterback based on what I saw from him during the regular season and during the postseason, especially when the lights were shining the brightest and he was playing the top teams in the National Football League. And I will say this too. After watching Sam Darnold and Drake May face off in the Super Bowl and Sam Darnold come away with the title and then watch Jalen Hurts come away with the title last year, do we need to start rethinking the way the quarterbacks are valued and the way the quarterbacks are paid in the National Football League? Those guys I mentioned, Jalen Hurts and Sam Darnold, they're fringe top 10 guys, but they're not elite guys, but they just quarterback back-to-back Super Bowl winning teams. Those guys aren't making a crazy amount of money compared to the NFL quarterback standard, right? Hurts is 11th in annual value. Darnold is 18th in annual value. And, what I've seen a lot online is that, oh yeah, you shouldn't get a quarterback, the devaluing the quarterback position. I think that's wrong. I think if Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow, kind of those big four, I always categorize together, if those transcendent talents are at your disposal, you don't give them a penny less than you want, especially someone like Mahomes who you can win with. There's a different standard there, right? They are at a different caliber where the bar is set differently. But I think paying anybody else franchise money is a big mistake. And we're going to break that down. I mean, I even look at Joe Burrow, right? He's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Seems like a no-brainer to keep him in tow in a franchise and pay him every single penny that he wants. But at $55 million per year, tied for the second highest amount per year in the NFL, what is the value proposition of having Joe Burrow as your quarterback? He misses about a third of his games. When he plays, he's won 55% of them. If you have Burrow, to keep him happy, you have to pay Jamar Chase. So there's another $40 million. Boom, there's 35% of your salary cap. And then you can't fill out the roster. Say you try to keep Trey Hendrickson, which that's been a disaster. You miss on a few draft picks, and boom, you have no O-line, you have no defense, and you have 3 straight years without a postseason appearance, let alone a postseason win or a Super Bowl run. And that's not to discredit Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is incredible. But again, if you have him for $55 million and you got to keep Jamar Chase in there as well for about 40, at some point, when is it not worth it eventually? At what point do the Bengals just say it's not worth it to have Joe Burrow? And at what point do you just say, do you pay $55 million for Burrow and have to sacrifice at every other position? Or do you say, let's get Sam Darnold for $33 million. Let's get Matthew Stafford for $40 million. Right? Sometimes teams just make bad signings. There's something you could do about it, like Kirk Cousins to Atlanta, Deshaun Watson to Cleveland, Tua to Miami, Kyler to Arizona. Those were just terrible contracts that were handed out. But even take Jared Goff, who's been one of the NFL's leading passers over the past few years. He's making, $52, $53 million per year. What's the value proposition of having Jared Goff at $53 million per season? He's the 4th or 5th best player on their offense. So if you look back at the most recent Super Bowls, exclude Mahomes from this conversation, because again, he's in a different echelon as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. You look at the Super Bowl matchups. You had Sam Darnold's bargain contract versus Drake May on a rookie deal. Last year, a little bit of an anomaly with 2 guys, making good money in Mahomes and Hurts. But in 2023, Mahomes versus Brock Purdy on a rookie deal. 2022, Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts on a rookie deal. 2021, Stafford versus Joe Burrow on a rookie deal. See how easy it is to win football games when you have guys on a rookie deal. So you really need to maximize when those quarterbacks are cheap. But once you have to pay them, why are the Packers paying Jordan Love $55 million a year? Why are the Cowboys paying Dak Prescott $60 million a year? Why are the Jaguars paying Trevor Lawrence $55 million a year? Those guys are good, but if they're not Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, if they're not those elite of the elite, I'm not paying them that money. It's not worth it. When I spoke with Adam Schefter a few years ago, it was the heart of when it was going, one guy's becoming the highest paid. It's Hurts, and then it's Lamar, and then it's Herbert, and then it's Burrow. And everyone was just topping each other. It got to a tipping point, and I asked him, when is this going to stop? And he said that the market value is going to continue to be reset with each quarterback until it's not, until one team steps up and until one storyline and one situation kind of shifts things. And these past 2 Super Bowls, I think, may have disrupted that philosophy. And I wouldn't blame teams for catching on. Again, if you are not the elite of the elite, why would you pay Jordan Love $55 million per year? And that's the same argument I've used for Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers. And so we were in a situation where we thought you needed the best quarterback. We thought that the best quarterback was the only way that you can win Super Bowls. We have learned these past 2 years that is incorrect. It is better to find a quarterback for a little bit cheaper than the market value. Right? $33 million is not cheap, but compared to the market value, it's 18th for Sam Darnold. Find someone for $35 million, build around them, and make sure that they could just not lose you the game and be game managers. And that's the best way to get to the Super Bowl and then possibly win one once you get to the big game. So I think really what the Super Bowl taught us is I think we're going to start to see a lot less of these big contracts being handed out. A lot of people say, is the grass greener on the other side? Well, yeah, clearly oftentimes it is, because it's not worth it to pay a guy $55 million when he's not worth 20% of your salary cap. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this edition of Chase's Sports News, breaking down the ins and outs of the Super Bowl matchup. Congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks, and we're going to have all-season coverage and kind of way too early predictions coming up here in the coming weeks. You're not going to want to miss that, plus some new NBA coverage, and then before you know it, pitchers and catchers are going to be reporting, and it's going to be baseball season, and that's a ton of fun, as well as spring hopes eternal, and the weather gets warmer here where I am located in the Northeast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. 29-13, the Seahawks win the Super Bowl, and we will see you guys next NFL season. But again, do not go anywhere, because we've got a ton of all-season coverage coming right here on Chase's Sports News. Signing off, I'm your host, Chase Coburn, saying so long from Chase's Sports News.